After a recent study found 1 in 8 men under 35 admit to taking condoms to funerals just in case. What's your experience with this? I went to my grandma's funeral and hit it off with this hot nurse. Things were going great until my brother pulled me aside and said it was my second cousin. You know who shows up at funerals for old people? Family members. Is this actually a case of, oh, I have a funeral to go to, let me grab a condom just in case, or is it a, I carry a condom just in case? Sadly today I'm attending a funeral. At that rate I think 1/8 men probably just bring a condom everywhere they go. 12% isn't really that notable, plenty of single men just carry condoms with them whenever anyway. Let me guess, the study came from Trojan or some other condom manufacturer. The other 7 are just raw dogging it with second cousins. I gotta think this has something to do with wedding crashers. Morning wood. What simple mistake has ended lives? There have been too many instances of rock climbers rappelling off of the ends of their ropes, which could have been easily avoided by tying stopper knots at the ends of their ropes. I worked at a tire place for a summer and the first thing they told me was see that torque wrench? One mistake with this and you can kill a whole family in a matter of seconds. I thought, well, better take this thing seriously. Theric 25. The world's deadliest software error. Cost several radiation patients their lives by administering lethal amounts of radiation, and for a while, the doctors didn't even know. As a healthcare worker, giving the wrong amount of insulin. Leaving the stranded vehicle on the road in winter and trying to walk to get help. It happens in rural parts of our province once or twice a year and they find the body a few days later. They get disoriented and freeze. Pulling the knife out of someone. Back when I was in middle school, we had a carbon monoxide leak on a state testing day. Someone was supposed to test for carbon monoxide over the weekend but the guy showed up at the high school and not the middle school, and they ended up having to reschedule the whole thing. When they found out about the leak, everyone was in the middle of state testing and they didn't want to evacuate the classrooms. Plus it was raining. So they held a shelter in place and tried to handle the situation since it was in a room away from the classrooms. But then kids started passing out in the classrooms and vomiting and stuff. Several ambulances, 2 hours in the rain, and several school buses taking us all to stay in the elementary school building. Later 3 students and 1 teacher's assistant died and over 30 students ended up in the hospital. My mom came and got me from the elementary school and took me to the hospital. I was okay, but I went home and passed out for almost 2 days. My mom was about ready to drag me back but then I started to feel better. All around? Fucking crazy experience. Mixing cleaning ingredients. A friend's husband locked himself out of their home. He tried to get in through a window that had security bars. While squeezing through, his foot slipped and he essentially hung himself on the windowsill. Almost any simple mistake can end a life if you're an anesthesiologist. That's how my grandpa died in his early 60s. Not being honest with doctors about Viagra. It has many dangerous drug interactions and can cause a lot of problems from what I've heard. Trust me, the doctor ain't gonna judge you guys, they have seen much more embarrassing things. And it would suck to die because you wanted to hide something just for it to be later stated in your death certificate. Deleted. Respected cardiothoracic surgeon tells a guy to stop smoking right outside the hospital doors. Guy turns around and punches him a single time in the head. King hit, or coward punched, whatever you want to call it. He falls to the floor and hits his head a second time. On life support for 4 weeks. Nothing left to save. Ignoring signs when cave diving. Bitch, they put a Grim Reaper on it, turn around. Edit, actually, cave diving to begin with. Fucking crazy people. NASA executives overriding engineers on the launch of the Space Shuttle Challenger. What is something that old people love that you don't understand? I'm a window cleaner and have a lot of elderly customers. Over the years I've found they love to be the first one to tell me one of the neighbors has died. To the point where if I say, yeah, Thelma already let me know, they look genuinely disappointed and annoyed that they weren't the one to break the news to me. Telling you who died recently, famous or not famous. I've reached the tipping point. I love my hedge and some drunk kid fell in it. Big hole. Will take 4 years to grow back. This get off my lawn moment awakened the old in me. In my country, Brazil, old people sit in front of their houses and do absolutely nothing for hours, just watching people and cars go by. This is more common for lower social class, For instance, my grandma and her friends gather every day at someone's door and just sit there until the night comes. They are retired. There is this weird type of traditional Vietnamese music my parents said that only old people like, and they could not stand it either. A decade later, and apparently they enjoy it. I await my turn in fear. Edit, for those asking, it is CILNG. I'm 73. Yes, I know what Reddit is. I love retirement. Playing tennis with friends, then complaining about shit over coffee and a donut. Tinkering with stuff until I break it, then calling a qualified technician. Gives my wife something to bitch about, playing WoW when you snot-nosed kids are in school so I don't get killed trying to complete a quest. Skiing midweek at senior rates when the slopes are empty. That's just for starters. Oldie here. I worked for a Canadian clothing store called Marks. I used to point our new arrivals to my daughter to see if she liked them, and she would say ugh. Those are old people clothes. One day she came in, looked around, and said, "You guys are starting to get some pretty good stuff." I laughed because nothing had really changed, and watched the expression on her face change as it slowly dawned on her. Watching the news constantly. Sitting hours behind those slot machines. Telling anyone who will listen about their various ailments. Look, I'm 57, so I'm ancient by Reddit standards. But I vowed early on that I will not become one of these oversharing old people. Watching the news obsessively. My dad has crossed over into this territory. Bitching about everything on the Nextdoor app. Facebook, adding your own name to a comment like "Great photos, love Mum and John." I fucking know it's you, Maureen, it shows me your when you comment. Fine china and silverware. It's pretty in the way anything made in bulk can be, it's expensive, has very little resale value, fragile as fuck, and virtually useless unless you're trying to impress another old person. Personal opinion, no hate. Oh my god, just sitting down in my recliner is glorious. Younger people may think I'm nuts, but I have so much stuff going on, it's nice to just sit down and relax.